Hi everyone. I decided I wanted to share with you something I've been making for about 10 or 12 years now, our found object mobiles. I'm doing a demonstration of this very mobile, and hopefully you'll learn enough to make your own things. It's a very fun project because you kind of collect things in your life, from sticks that you find, beads that you like, jewelry, bells, prisms. I just love kinetic art because it's constantly changing. One of the things that really makes these mobiles work is using monofilament, which is fish line. So it kind of disappears and it just kind of adds some negative space that's pretty cool with them. So I'm going to show you some of the mobiles I've made, and we'll go from there, and I'll show you how to make them. 15 years ago, my mom passed away, and it was up to me to sort through her apartment and all her things and get them ready for my sisters and my nephews and nieces to look through. And after everybody went through her things and took what they wanted, there was a lot of costume jewelry left over. And I found like a drawer full of keys, and it suddenly dawned on me that they would make cool mobiles. And I've always liked mobiles. Calder, I just love his work. I love kinetic sculpture. I love things that move. And I also really love elements of nature. So here are some examples of the materials that I use. Again, sticks, then there's some ceramic pieces, some jewelry, some keys. I use a Dremel Moto-Tool to drill the holes in the sticks, and I use the monofilament to string the beads. So the first thing that I do is I lay out the sticks in a way that I think would make an interesting mobile, and I almost always use the floor, and I do it on cloth. And the reason it helps the beads from rolling off, and it just it gives you a solid background while you're working. And so first I just figure out the formation, the general formation. It's almost like working 2D for a 3D piece. And again, the white pieces like the butterfly and the spirals, those were done. I did those, they're ceramic, they're porcelain beads and spirals that I made for mobiles. But you don't have to do that. You can use all kinds of things. Almost everybody has earrings hanging around that they lost one of the pair. There's just things that we have that can be used to make mobiles. So once I get the configuration, then I start stringing, and I use the 12-pound monofilament. And usually you can go in, do the beads just with the monofilament itself without a needle. Once in a while you'll run into a bead that you need a needle to get it through, or even sometimes with the holes in the sticks themselves, you might need a needle. So it's good to have a needle that's thick enough to get monofilament in, but thin enough to get through a bead or a hole. So I just start stringing the beads. I will do the bottom, get the bottom attached, and often I'll put a bell or a chime or a prism. Sometimes I use pieces of seaweed that I find that are interesting shapes. They're very light and they're kind of cool. So once I get the bottom parts of the beads done, then I'll tie another knot or 2 knots, a double knot in the monofilament, and you use a double strand of monofilament to string these. And then I'll put another layer of beads on so that there's a negative space in between. And then in an equidistant way, make another hole and another hole. And then those will be where you'll string your beads and whatever, and try to make them kind of weigh equally as much as possible so that you maintain the balance. And once you've drilled them, then you can start putting the beads on them. You can use a regular drill, you can use a hand drill. So you just want to drill everywhere you're going to hang a strand of beads, or you're going to string the mobile itself together. And each section you want to get done separately so that once you're ready to string the mobile together, every section has the beads already strung on it. It's much easier to do it laying down. And it's also a really good idea to keep the beads in the box. The way to attach a bead itself, I mean the beads, the strand of beads on the stick, is to have a bead underneath and knotted, so that when you string the monofilament through the stick, you put another bead on and then string it back through again, and put the monofilament through the bead underneath, and then knot it under that bead, and that attaches it to the stick itself. So you need to do that to all the segments of your mobile. And sometimes, like I said, this one, I think I have 6 segments to it. So this is a pretty complicated mobile that I'm making right now. But the same goes for any mobile. You could do just a one single stick with a lot of beads hanging from it. The same thing. So you take the monofilament, the beaded strand of monofilament, and then put it through the stick, and then another bead on top of the stick, and put the monofilament through that, and then back through it, and back through the bead underneath, and then pull so that it's all taut, and then do 2 knots on top of each other, and then cut it off. Sometimes when you're attaching something to like a piece of wood, like I'm doing here, I put a single side, one of the single threads of the monofilament through one side, and the other single thread through the other side. And that way it's going to end up balancing at the bottom the right way. It's going to hang the right way for me. I've found that these mobiles last a really long time. Monofilament is a pretty mighty material. So again, knotting it twice is always a good idea, and then just cutting off any excess. Be careful. And it's still balancing at the hole that I made earlier with the drill. You can use a regular drill, you can use a Dremel tool, they're very handy. You can use a little hand drill. You can even tie things with wire. They won't move quite as freely, the mobile won't move as freely if you don't have that central, I guess, string through it, that everything moves around it. Now I've got everything attached that I want to my sticks. And now I'm ready to string up the center. I use 25-pound fish line for that instead of the 12. It's just a stronger, obviously. And so you take that on your bottom piece, and then you just keep stringing each part and choosing the beads that you want as you go. And again, I always work on cloth when I'm working with beads, and I keep the beads in a shallow box. It just makes it easier to choose them. And the fabric keeps the beads from rolling off. So that's just a helpful thing when you're working on something like this. So it's good to check each layer to make sure that you've got the right length, that things aren't running into each other too much. You want a little bit of touch between the pieces because that's what keeps the mobile moving. You don't want it to be too low where it's stuck. It gets stuck. It doesn't keep moving. So you just keep adding each layer. Here we go. Voila, we've got a mobile. That wraps up this demo. I hope you make something because they're very fun. Again, they can be inside, they can be outside, and you can put your memories on them and hang them, and there's always room from a ceiling. You may run out of wall space, but you usually have ceiling space. I hope you enjoyed this, and do art, be kind.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope that you learned something new and had fun while you were at it. If you did, well, guess what? We have a whole bunch more waiting for you over at artmakesus.com in our Watch and Learn video series. Be sure to check out what's happening in AMU Live, all of our upcoming classes and workshops that you can participate in online. We also have one-on-one mentorship opportunities. Remember, everyone is an artist.